Hello, everyone. My name is Barry Heidowitz. I'm a director at Extreme Labs. Today, we have a webinar being presented by Dave Barry on when to use what, Copilot for Office, Agent Mode, and Anthropic, Office Agents. So with that, well, I'll post information about where the recording of this webinar can be found. If you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat or the Q&A section during the webinar, and David will address them time permitting. Otherwise, the other thing that you can do is either reach out to David if he's open to it. He'll share his contact info for that, or my contact info will also be in the chat. And also put information about where the webinar will be posted and information about Extreme Labs in general, where other webinars can be found. And with that, I'll hand it over to David. Thank you, David.
All right, thanks, Barry. Appreciate it. Hello, everyone. Good morning, afternoon, and evening, wherever in the world you might be. Welcome to the webinar today. Before we go ahead and get started, just a little bit about myself. I've been a consultant for a number of years. I'm currently an MCT community lead, that's Microsoft certified trainer. I've been a MCT for over 20 some odd years. In my consulting career, I've worked across a number of different clients and industries, including commercial, government, and nonprofits. And I'm also a member of the Northern Virginia Technology Council. If you're in the Northern Virginia area, I highly encourage you to look it up. If your company is a member, you're entitled to go to the events, and they have some really awesome events in the area, so please check them out. I'm also a technology analyst at Directions on Microsoft. We provide licensing and technology analysis on this unbiased on the spectrum of Microsoft products and services. We've been doing this for over 30 years, and I'd love to have you guys check out our website. And feel free to reach out to me with any questions that you might have. You've got my LinkedIn information on there. The QR code goes to my LinkedIn site. So you should be in good shape to contact me. All right. I'm going to go ahead and get started then. Just a brief agenda. I don't want to spend too much time on it. I'll give you guys a little bit of background on Copilot and what we're looking at here in terms of what I'm planning on covering today. And then we'll kind of step through things from the three major productivity apps in Office: Word, PowerPoint, and Excel. And then I'll close out with some final thoughts, comparisons, and wrap things up. And at any point in time, feel free to ping out a question. All right. So what this really is today is an introduction to how Microsoft has integrated Copilot and agents into Word, PowerPoint, and Excel to kind of help jumpstart the creativity process in some respects, or to also help develop your files along the way as part of the creative process. So with three somewhat competing options out there, I just wanted to take some time today to kind of introduce you to each one of them and what some of the pros and cons are. The basic one that we have, of course, is M365 Copilot. I'm assuming many of you have already had some experience with Copilot in Word, PowerPoint, and Excel. If you, regardless of whether or not you have a license for it, you should have access to it if you have an M365 subscription. So that's kind of like our baseline there. The next one that's rolling out is Agent Mode. And this is really an interesting one because it's very similar to the chat aspect of M365 Copilot, but has some neat enhancements that we'll get into as we go through some of the demos here. And then I'm going to kind of close up the choice of three here with the Anthropic Office agents. Microsoft last year formed a partnership with Anthropic. We're starting to see some integrations with M365 Copilot using Anthropic models. The Office agents is one of those integrations. So it's available for Word, PowerPoint, and Excel, but is not available in Word, PowerPoint and Excel. So that's kind of an interesting implementation for right now, at least, and we'll see if that changes since it's an agent and going into the future. What today is really about is just like I said, talking about what the different things can do. So from the standpoint of content creation, that's going to be my primary focus today. I'm not really going to dig into how to write prompts in any detail. I'll probably be using the prompt consistently across just to give you guys an idea of how everything kind of works, from one scenario to the next. And then this is not really a how-to per se. Again, it's just one of those things where it's I wanted to introduce the different capabilities of each one of these different 3 modes of creating content. So, and since this is Copilot and since we are generating content, it could take a few minutes between things. So I've got some points to cover, but that's also a great time. If you've got a question, feel free to post it in the chat, and while Copilot's thinking, I will do my best to respond. All right, just a note about some of the prerequisites. I call them prerequisites because in order to be able to go through some of these demos or follow along, what I have is an M365 Copilot license. This is an add-on to an M365 subscription. So that gives me, the full access to the capabilities of Copilot in this particular case. If you have the unlicensed version, as I call it, of M365 Copilot, the Copilot chat only, you'll be able to do a couple of the things, but the rest of this stuff is pretty much tied to the Copilot license itself. So, and I'll talk about that as we go through. Also, some of the things I'm going to show you today are still in preview. So if you want to have access to it, you'll probably have to enroll in the Frontier program. This is the the preview program for Microsoft's AI components. So we'll see the agents were part of the Frontier program. I think they're transitioning now into GA, and some of the agent mode for some of the apps are also still in the Frontier program. Now, I've mentioned Anthropic previously. The thing to know about Anthropic is that this is, obviously it's not Microsoft, it's an external provider. It's not like the partnership that Microsoft has with OpenAI for the underlying models used by M365 Copilot. So this is actually a provider that you have to have enabled in your tenant. And earlier this year in January, Microsoft did that by default in most of the tenants, unless you're in Europe. So you may not have to do anything unless your organization already disabled Anthropic as a provider. So you definitely need to double check on that if you're not seeing the Office agents and think that you should have that. So. And then just a side note about agent mode, it's not really a prerequisite, but it is rolling out first to the web versions of Office. So everything I'm going to be doing today is in the web version of Office. It is supposed to roll out to the desktop versions. I think Excel is going to be the first desktop version to get it if it hasn't already gotten it. And then the other ones are supposed to follow along. So, all right. Just a word about a couple of pitfalls before we go ahead and get started. I don't want to derail the conversation getting into a lot of the details. I think anyone who's been working with Copilot and other AI tools are probably familiar with most of these caveats around them. And that is, first off, the round of tools that we predominantly work with are assistive tools. They are literally assistants more than, autonomous tools that are going to go off and do things for you. This is the primary mode of Copilot itself. And as Microsoft is fond of saying, that's why it's called Copilot and not Pilot. So you still have a responsibility to check everything that comes out of the tool before you use it for business purposes. AI is also non-deterministic. I don't know how often this is mentioned. Sometimes I think it's common, and then I find out it's not. But what that basically means is that you can take, a prompt, rerun it, a couple of different times, and get a couple of different answers. So AI is going to kind of vary its responses based on the information and its chain of thought as it goes through each time that prompt is executed. And of course, everybody's favorite, hallucinations. It's still going to get stuff wrong. Maybe not wrong, maybe it's inaccurate, maybe it's incomplete. But the idea again is that this is not perfect. And one of the things that we have to be careful of in this generation of tools is that we don't become overly reliant on what it is that the tools are giving us. And we're always going to have to keep checking things for a while. So while it does save, some time and energy in some aspects, it may require a kind of a balancing act on the other end to make sure that you are producing quality content. All right. With that, let me jump right into Copilot for Word. And what I'll do here is hopefully pull up. Come on. All right. So what I wanted to start with as I kind of step through this is Word has, I'm going to use Word as the baseline for the rest of it. So it has a couple of different things going on with it. The first example using Word is actually using the Copilot chat itself to actually generate the content for the Word document. So this is, what we've been working with pretty much since it got embedded in Word is, we have to go out and do this. And what we'll notice is that we have a couple of limitations, although it's gotten a little bit better over the last year or so, a little bit more expansive, a little bit more capable. And what I have here is I jiggered a prompt that is basically going to, actually, let me just go ahead and show that to you. I got it on the slide first. Okay, so this is the prompt that I'm pretty much going to be using for Word and Excel. I know it's a little bit small, but hopefully you guys can still read it. But basically, it sets the identity, if you will, of what I want the Copilot to do, and that is to be an experienced sell-side equity research analyst specializing in large cap technology. The reason I'm doing this is that I want to analyze Microsoft's fiscal Q2 2026 financial results. This is basically the results that they published at the end of January this year. So it's all public information. And then I'm specifying what my goal is and what I'm trying to accomplish. So the first part you guys are probably familiar with. I set an audience. I'm actually using, since I'm using Word, I'm and eventually PowerPoint, specifying a little bit more about the executive headline, a bullet summary, and then an analyst style paragraph. Now, one of the things that I'm also doing here is I want to also call out that I'm trying to set some specifics around how I want the content to look. So I want to use Arial for all my headers. For header 1, I want it to be bold with the color of blue. Header 2, I want bold and italicized, and the color is orange. And then use Calibri for body text. And this is just simply to kind of illustrate what some of the capabilities are or are not in the different scenarios that we're going to be doing with Word. So with that, I'll jump back. That's what this is here that I just pasted in. It's the same quote or prompt rather. I'm going to go ahead and kick that off. And it's going to go and do some work while it's doing that. Go through, and you can follow along and see potentially what it's doing, the coding and the executing. I'm going to do a little bit jumping around because this is going to take some time to produce, and I'm going to go into scenario 2 here. So with scenario 2, this is the Copilot Canvas agent, I guess. I call it a Copilot companion. This one is embedded in Word, and it provides Word-specific functionality. And it too has the ability to create content, but it does it in a slightly different way because I'm now in line, so to speak, with the document itself. So I can paste the same quote or prompt in here and see what the experience looks like with this. So I'll kick this off. And like I said, these are the two kind of basic or baseline scenarios that you can use with a simple M365 Copilot license. The first one, you don't even need a license. This one you do. And you can see this one came back pretty quick, actually. And it went through, it did the executive headline. It took me a little bit literally there. And then I've got my bullet summary, analyst style commentary, and it gives me the option down here of whether or not to keep it. I can regenerate it or just trash it. I can also give it, specific instructions if I want to kind of tweak it a little bit. So this, in terms of creating content, gives me a little bit of flexibility, in order to set things up the way I want to go through it. Now, I'm not getting into the quality of the content because that's always going to be something that is going to be variable and something that you have to make sure that you review as part of any of this generation. But you can see that based on what I was hoping to accomplish, it went through and pulled out a decent amount of information to get me jump started in producing the information rather than having to start from scratch. Now I'm going to jump back to the first scenario that we have, see how that's doing. And what we can see with this one, this is our basic Copilot chat. This is the one that's available, without a license as well as with a license. The only difference being your web and work toggle. So if you do not have a Copilot license, you'll be restricted to using web grounding. Whereas if you have the M365 Copilot license, you have the option of including work and web in your grounding. So let's see here, because this is interesting. It says it can't complete this analysis yet. Interesting. Did I have something up with my quote? My prompt. I keep saying quote and I don't know why. Okay. Always a good thing with these demos, because this worked earlier. Let me try switching over to the web and repasting the content that way. All right, see if that one works. So I'll flip back over, and actually what I'll do while that one is still baking, I'll jump over to our third scenario, which is the agent mode. So the first one I showed you was Copilot Chat. The second one I showed you was the Canvas agent or Copilot Companion, whatever you want to call it, the one that's this here that's embedded. So the third now is the Copilot agent mode. So agent mode is underneath your tools menu if you have it. And you can see agent mode right here and right now. So agent mode operates a little bit different from Copilot Chat. Everything that Copilot Chat does, agent mode, as far as I can tell, has been able to do. The big difference is going to be in the output. So let me go ahead and kick this off. And we'll let that run, and I'll go back and check the Copilot Chat and see if that has anything. Yeah, that must have something cached from my earlier testing. So it's really not liking it. See if we can kind of force it to. All right, we've kicked that one off. Now jump back to the interactive or the agent mode. And what we can see so far is the agent mode is actually generating the content and inserting it directly into the document. So this is a little bit different from what we saw with the Copilot Companion. Do you remember we had the window up at the top to generate this output? This one here, we are doing it directly from the chat, which is really kind of neat that you can now sort of converse with Copilot to kind of get the structure, the information, and all of that together. And then, once you have kind of that background in the conversation history, you can go ahead and say, yes, generate this document, and it will go ahead and populate the Word document with the information. You can see it takes a lot of this stuff somewhat literally. So, again, you're going to have to go through and clean some stuff up. This is about a 2-page summary, not even a 2-page summary. So it's a little bit of a different take on things than, what was here. This looked a little bit more polished, a little bit, page and a half, so a little bit more information. So again, this is using the same prompt just to give you guys kind of a baseline comparison of seeing what it looks like, from an output perspective. And this one's still thinking about it. All right. Well, I'll let it run just a little bit while we still have that third option to show, which is the agent. As soon as I can get rid of the Teams moniker in there. Okay. So this is agent for Word. So I'm just in the M365 Copilot app or the website. Generally in chat, you can just go down to your tools. You can pick one of the agents. You can see I've got Word, Excel, and PowerPoint here. So it looks, just like any other Copilot chat window, except that I've got that little Word indicator there as well. So now remember, this is going to be using the Anthropic model, and it's going to behave a little bit differently. So what the Anthropic models bring to the table is more of a deep reasoning approach to creating content. So it's going to go off and really think about what it is that I'm asking it to do. Before it does that, it's going to ask me a couple of confirming questions. If you've worked with the researcher agent, the same type of thing happens with the researcher agent. So it's going to think about it, and then fairly quickly, it should come back with some questions here. And let's see, do I have any questions here while this one's thinking? Nope, you're all good. Okay.
Yeah, no questions yet. No.
All right. Well, since that one's still trying to figure out the questions to ask me, I'll go back and see if chat has changed. I love the little Copilot warning here. Got to be very careful and direct here. Okay. All right, well, let's just go with the framework then and see if that generates anything. The upshot of what happens here, and this is the last time I'm going to come back to this one. If this doesn't work, then it doesn't work, which is weird because I just did this. But what the upshot is, and it looks like this is actually going to work, as it figures out, is when you create something with chat, it doesn't insert into the document directly. You can't make changes to the document that you're working on directly, and that's a bit of a drag, really, if you're trying to use natural language and you have a whole conversation in there and you want to make some changes using natural language. Not having that capability inside of chat is a bit difficult. So it looks like this worked well enough. So the options aren't bad. It's just, now at least, it's just a bit of an inconvenience. I've got this little plus button down here. That's just going to go ahead. I hit the plus button, and that's going to take and add the whole output to the document. What you'll notice, though, is that it adds the entire, history of this part of the chat. So it tells you right up there, it's the same disclaimer that it gave in the chat. And then it does go on and give you the information. And then it closes out with, next, I can, do whatever you want. So it's a bit of a different approach to doing it. And then the other thing you remember is that originally I had asked it to, to change the header, to change the text. I still have the Aptos font. I'm not using any of the blue headers or the orange headers. So it's not able to really do some of that stylistic that we saw in either the Copilot Canvas agent or in agent mode with what we've seen. So, whoops. All right. All right. So jumping back now to the Office agent by Anthropic. It went off, thought about things, took a look, and now is wants to know some specific questions. And this is interesting because this is actually asking, questions about, the data in a sense. Lots of times it'll give you multiple choice. This one's asking me to provide an answer. Let's see here. So specific financial metrics, most critical executive decisions. Let's say revenue growth rates. And you don't have to answer these, but it's asking you these questions in an effort to actually kind of refine what it is that it's going to produce. And let's do year over year. And I'm going to stick with the Office theme. I'm not a big green person, at least not those shades, and that's a little bit too colorful. All right, and off it goes. So now I mentioned again that this is deep reasoning. So if you've worked with the researcher agent, you know that this can take multiple minutes to calculate. So it's going to go off and do its thing, and we're going to come back to this and see what it looks like. So with that, I'm going to move off Word and jump into PowerPoint. If you have any questions before I do that, feel free to post them in the chat. I'll take a look at them. Otherwise, I will go over to PowerPoint. And PowerPoint has the same concept as Word, in the sense that, we have, Copilot, again, as a chat, opens up in the right pane pretty consistently. And then it also has this little Copilot icon up here. This is that companion or Canvas agent. I don't know that Microsoft actually has a name for it. But from here, similar to what you could do in Word, you can create a new presentation. You can do one with a file, add a slide, add a topic. So you got a little bit of flexibility. Each one of these, between Word, PowerPoint, and Excel is a little bit different. So you sometimes have to take a look and see what the options are. Most of them have to do with creating content, not so much tweaking content in terms of like stylistic changes and things like that. So what I'll do, let me see if this one's been giving me problems, and I don't know why, but we'll give it a shot and see if this is going to generate this time. And normally what this will do is this will go through and basically gin up an outline, ask you to confirm the outline, and then you can go through and create slides based on the outline that you went through and modified. So while this is going through, yep, okay. All right, I'm going to let that run. And again, now I'm going to jump over to the agent mode. So same type of preparation as we saw before. Here I am. I already have this one set up for agent mode. You can tell by the PowerPoint agent that's right there. And again, I'll just go ahead and paste that in and see what happens. And then also, in the interest of time, I'm going to march right on through to PowerPoint agent. And with this one, I've already pasted in the quote or the prompt just so I could get to the presentation options. You can see this is like the multi-select and the multiple choice. So I can go through and, pick details about how I want the PowerPoint to look. And this can change. This is not always going to be, these two basic types of choices either. It could ask, more audience details if you have a conversational history, or if you are attaching documents, it could ask information about some of the documents. So there's a lot of different ways that this could actually manifest itself. So I'm going to go with both. I'm going to do AI technology investment returns because we're all about AI. I can even influence the length. So this is going to do about 8 to 10 slides. I'm going to make it more concise. This can get verbose. Let's see. I want to balance text and visuals, and I'll do the bronze theme, and well, off we go on that one. All right. So let's cycle through it again and see what they look like. All right. So this went through. You can see the outline. It pretty much followed exactly what I laid out. It captured the formatting guidance. Whether or not I'll use it, we'll have to see. This is the presentation style. You can do a blank template. It gives you a couple of different choices. If your organization has templates, then they should be available up here as well. I don't happen to have any, but you can go ahead and pick any one of the templates that appeals to you. And then what's interesting down here is this is newer, is that you have the option of choosing AI generated images or stock images. So I'm going to pick stock images just simply because generating AI images is a lengthy process. And if you've got 3, 4, 5 different images that it's going to create, it could really drag out how long the process takes. There's also a third option I'll mention here is that there's an organizational asset library that your company can host in SharePoint with company images. And then that would also be an option for you to choose from when you're generating, these presentations. So we'll go ahead and generate that. And you can see that it starts to build out. And then let's see here. I pretty much Interesting. Okay. It too got caught up on, something having to do with the workbook. The prompt that I used started off with an Excel example, so it's getting wrapped around the workbook apparently. So see if this works. Jump back over here. Okay. So it created the presentation as another file. But you can see that it goes ahead, opens it right up, and you can see, what the different slides are. Here are your images. Like I said, had you chosen AI generated images, those would have been AI generated. But you can see that, right out of the box, you might got some work to do in order to get this going. But if you, are starting from scratch, this can be a real, kind of a boost. When you're working with internal content, and this goes for Excel, Word, and PowerPoint, there's more than just, the business data that it has access to. You can actually attach documents to it. And let's see if this doesn't work. All right, well, let's see if this works. It's not letting me add files here either. When in doubt, let's refresh the page. Okay, so this is where I got agent mode. You can see this is one of the ones in Frontier. Word is GA. Start with something new. This one does not support attaching the documents. All right, well, we'll let that one run. I think generally from the Word, you get the same concept here with agent mode, that should this work, it will actually go out and create the slides without having to do that copy and paste type of scenario. Now with the Anthropic agent, you can see here that it's created the slides pretty quickly, actually, using the bronze template. And you can see that it's got some nice graphs, some nice facts and figures, breaks down some of the implementation challenges. So this is a little bit closer, I would say, to being, presentable. Obviously, you still need to go through this, make sure that it is presenting the right information that you want to present to your executives or whomever the audience is as you go through this. But overall, it works pretty well. Gets you, a good 60-70% of the way there potentially, depending upon what the content and the topic is. This down here, as you can see, I have the ability to add content, and that's what I was talking about with PowerPoint for agent mode, which doesn't seem to support that, at least not right now. But any time that you can attach content that helps direct Copilot, the better your results are going to be. So, what good looks like, for example. So if you have an organizational template, if you have examples of existing products that, are close to what you're doing, you can upload those. That kind of helps shape how any of these options are going to respond, not just the Copilot agents, but agent mode as well. All right. All right, so something must have gotten screwed up there. So it seems to be building slides now, which is good. So again, this is preview, so there are bound to be some glitches. And you just kind of got to bear with it a little bit as these things roll out. Cool. And while that's finishing, I'm going to push on to Excel. And then for Excel, we have the same drill. We've got our chat. In the interest of time, I'm going to skip this one right now. You do have, they do have Copilot suggestions, which is in the web version, at least, it's the equivalent of what those Copilot agents and Canvas Copilots are. This one, the Excel one is extremely useful, particularly, it's on both ends of the spectrum, if you will. If you're not as versed in Excel, Copilot is really actually helpful. If you're a data scientist on that side, there are actually tools and capabilities that actually can help, on experts as well from a time conservation standpoint. So a lot of good stuff if you haven't been working with this one. But I don't have the ability really to create from this one, unlike I do in PowerPoint and Word. So I am over here to chat, and then I'll go into agent mode. Oh, and agent mode is out of, interesting. Oh no, okay. So it still says you're using Frontier features. So you got to look and check, and sometimes it's up here, sometimes it's in the name. They're not consistent about where it is. So with that one, let me just grab a slightly different prompt. It's the same basic prompt that I've been using. All right, so this one is looking for Q2 2026 financial results. Let's see if there's not working here. Okay. So this is going to go off, and just like the other agent modes, it's going to start processing the information, and we'll come back and check that one out. And then I'll jump over to the same thing over here with Excel. This is the Excel agent. You've noticed that none of the agents are in the actual application itself, at least not yet. So the only way to access these agents is from the M365 Copilot app. And with this, we can expect pretty much the same as what we saw with the PowerPoint agent. It'll go off, again, deep reasoning. It's going to take some time, and it'll come back with some additional questions. So let's see. That one's thinking as well. Jump back over here. That's looking good. We have anything else outstanding? I think that was it. So while these are, oh, here we go, the options. Okay, so again, a couple of questions to answer with this one. Let's do, we'll just do equal coverage. Play it safe. AI monetization. And we'll do year over year again. and off it goes. Okay. I'm thinking this one's probably going to fail, but it could surprise me. The finance ones can sometimes take a little while to produce. And then that was all good. Okay. All right. So I think just the Excel ones are the ones that we're waiting on. So I'll go back to the presentation and start winding some things down. All right. Let's see. I mentioned this one before, consistent across all three. When you attach what good looks like, it's really going to help your results. So if you're dealing with like a proposal and you have a template that follows, that's supposed to guide what proposals look like, you want to attach that proposal. I'm sorry, that template to the proposal you're creating. Similarly, if you have, examples of good proposals that have won, for example, then you can also attach those and it will reason across the templates and the good examples to help generate your new proposal. So things like that can be very beneficial, particularly with PowerPoint. PowerPoint's another one where you can really benefit from having examples of what good looks like. There's the opportunity to, I covered off on the images. You have stock images and OpenAI image generator images, and you also have the organizational asset library. One other thing that Microsoft had recommended at one point in time was what they called an optimized template. So what the optimized template really meant was a template that is designed to give Copilot options when it's creating slides. So it may not be as important now as it once was, but it still may be worth looking into, having an optimized template. And basically what that amounts to is kind of like small, medium, and large slides for text and images, so that it can take a look at, well, what's the right fit for this based on the amount of information, based on the image. And it has a naming convention as well to follow from a slide perspective. So that can also help boost results if you turn that into like a corporate template. The Excel prompt. All right, so Copilot for Excel. I hit on the templates and examples. This is really cool because it's if you're, again, not fluent in Excel, it'll go out and do Python for you. It'll put the code in there. You can check the code for any of the data scientists who write their own Python. The code's there. They can review it and check it, because you do have to go through, particularly with anything that you're doing with Excel. You want to verify all the calculations are correct. I've gone through a couple of the things that I've done with it, and I've found that it's definitely not perfect. I wasn't doing anything massive from a business decision perspective necessarily, but if you want an example to go around and play with, think about creating like a 401k calculator using Excel agent mode. And it'll go through and gin up all the calculations based on, your salary and percentage and stuff like that. So, and then you can go back through and you can check any of the calculations, any of the code that it generates. But again, don't make decisions based on what the output is until you're convinced that it's accurate. And then the one that I'm not going to talk about today is called the Analyst Agent. This is another one of the premier agents that you get with the M365 Copilot license. And you heard me mention Researcher, that's one. Analyst Agent is the other. And this is like an Excel data scientist type of agent. So it can get really detailed in its analysis. What I have not been able to do, and what would be really kind of cool to do, is to play this off against the Excel Office agent, which is using that deep reasoning model itself, and see where the pros and cons are there. But that is unfortunately something for another day for me. All right, just a quick eye chart. When we compare, Copilot for Office against agent mode and agents, some of the strengths, for Copilot, you can go in and, basically chat with it while you're coming up with your draft and getting the right information in the history of the conversation. I think everybody knows that you can use it to summarize stuff, so that's not necessarily a big deal. And in some of the other, like Excel, you can use it for data analysis and get some information based on a spreadsheet that's already full of data. Whereas agent mode is much more interactive, not just because of the conversational chat, but because it can actually make updates into the file itself directly, and not just content either. Now it can do style updates, and in the case of Excel, it can actually go out and do things like your pivot tables for you. You just tell it to do a pivot table, and it will go out and do it. And if you don't know if you need a pivot table, you can ask it, and it will tell you if a pivot table would be useful and what might be good. And then the agents, they get into a much more complex, multi-step type of file creation that you saw there with asking questions and such. In all of these cases, you shouldn't necessarily think of them as necessarily being exclusive. You can use them together completely in one way or another. Like, if you're in agent mode, which for me is, starting to replace the use of chat by default in these Office applications, you still have access to the Canvas agent that's actually embedded into the canvas of the application. So you can use the two together, where necessary. And then once the agent, the Office agent is done creating its content, it saves it off, and then you can open that in the Word application or the PowerPoint or the Excel, whichever one you've been using, and then continue to use agent mode and or that Canvas agent to refine and edit it if you so choose. So these are not mutually exclusive. You just kind of have to play around with them a little bit to figure out, do you understand what is best for the scenario in which you're working? So that's really, kind of the takeaway from, to a certain extent with this one. But I am beginning to wonder if agent mode will actually replace Copilot chat, as the default in these applications, just because it seems to do everything chat already does and more. So why have two? We'll see how Microsoft deals with that as we go forward. That's if you have any questions about the chart, feel free to post them in the window there. Down at the bottom is kind of the feature comparison of sorts. As you can see, everybody does, the in-app creation. Are you working within the Office apps? The agents do not. And this is, kind of goes to one of the productivity philosophies out there is, Microsoft wants you to stay in the flow. This kind of breaks the flow when you use the agent. And then when you use Copilot, the native Copilot, yeah, you're in the app, but you've got to take a few extra steps. May not be a big deal, might be better than, when you have to, work with the agent, who knows, might be personal preference. But definitely take the opportunity to kind of play around with those. Same thing with in-app editing. I really think agent mode is pulling ahead in that area. The agents, they actually do some in-app editing, but because it's a deep reasoning agent, every time you ask it to do something, there's going to be a time lag about doing it. So I probably shouldn't have that at, nothing, but it is a bit of a lag, and by the time a couple of times that I've been working with them all, it's actually been a little bit faster and easier to open the document in agent mode and then start doing the editing. But again, these agents are still in preview, so by the time they roll out, they may have changed that. All right, I'm just going to, before I close out, just mention AI slop. I talked in the beginning about, it's an assistive agent, it's, non-deterministic. One of the things that the industry and basically everybody is seeing is that with the prevalence of these tools, there's a drop in the quality of content across the board. Because as much as everyone thinks that these are, wonderful tools, and they can absolutely add value in particular situations, they aren't there yet. And the content itself, I'm sure if I were to go through in detail on some of the stuff that I generated just now, we'd be able to find some either shortcomings, inaccuracies, all that good stuff that you typically find with AI tools. So be sure to review and verify any of the AI content that you use for, business, for your clients, for anything that you share outside of yourself. Really make sure that you take the time and effort to go through it. It's like, yeah, these tools can help shortcut a lot of the research and everything, but that doesn't mean that the quality is there on the end. And what's happening is, like Harvard Business Review and a couple of the other big boys out there are starting to get feedback that people are kicking this stuff down the road to peers for review, managers for review, who basically are getting this stuff and they can tell right away that it was AI generated and that it was not answering what the question was, not providing the right amount of information. It was just coming up short. And it creates rework for them in most cases because they either send it back to the person who created it and feedback. So the manager or the peer has to actually sit down and put together the feedback, or they don't bother sending it back and they just do the work themselves, which is now creating rework for them. So be mindful as you use these tools and make sure you're doing the due diligence that the quality is maintained and as it is expected for the level of work that you're doing. All right. I think I've covered off on a lot of these, but just quick recap. You've got M365 Copilot and Copilot Chat. We're starting to see more stuff get pushed down to Copilot Chat, so you can expect to see Copilot Chat, that unlicensed version, get a few more enhancements. Not the least of which is going to be agent mode. So right now, everything that I showed from an agent mode perspective required the M365 license, but either this month, next month or two, the agent mode is going to roll out to Copilot Chat. So you won't need a license necessarily to access the agent mode if you don't have one. So that can be beneficial. One thing I didn't show you, I can flip back to Excel, is the agent mode model selector. This is rolling out. Excel has it first. It should go to Word and PowerPoint eventually, but the model selector allows you to choose between OpenAI and Anthropic models in agent mode. So some people prefer the Anthropic models. They'll now have an opportunity to use those in agent mode. It's not available, and as far as I know, not coming to the Copilot Chat or the M365 chat capability, I should say. So if you're in the M365 app, that model selector was not there, and I haven't seen it on the roadmap yet. Doesn't mean it won't be there, but we'll have to wait and see. And then Anthropic, basically its Office agents, as you saw, it's not part of Office. I can't even mention the agent in the chat. That's not an option yet. Hopefully that'll be there in the future. Again, the thing to take away when you're using Anthropic is they recently became a sub-processor to Microsoft, which is good. in the sense that it is now using the agents are now come under the Microsoft data protection obligations and agreements. So it is treated like that. However, data is still transferred outside of your M365 tenant. So it's going to go to an Anthropic data center for now, at least. And most of the Anthropic data centers are in the US and part of AWS or GCP. They're, as far as I know, they're planning to move some stuff into Azure. I don't know if there's a timeline or any of that yet, but if you have data residency concerns, you do need to be aware of that. And with that, let's just take a quick look at Excel before I let you all go. This one is just hanging around and that's just not coming back. All right.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you have a site or recommendation for example or sample prompts that would be a good starting point when working with these?
So actually, there's like a couple of different things. First off, you can go to the Microsoft adoption site for M365 Copilot, and there is a library of starter prompts across the board for the different applications, and the Copilot app itself. So absolutely, you can go there and take a look at it. The other thing I'll mention is that if you have an M365 Copilot license, I think it's still accessible only by the license. There is actually a prompt coach agent. So you can actually use the prompt coach to help you create whatever prompts you want. So you can ask it, how do I create a prompt on, creating a gingerbread cookie recipe? And it will start laying out how to go ahead and do that. It will get rather detailed, and it will follow basically, the Microsoft best practice format of, declaring your goals, your sources, and other criteria for, your best practice for prompts. But that will give you actual customized responses that you can then tweak to what it is that you're doing. Like I said, it will go through and generate a rather lengthy response, but it will, definitely show you how to write a response properly. And don't kid yourself, writing prompts is like a creative writing assignment. Relatively speaking, the prompt that I was using was probably, a half dozen, 8 lines. Prompts can get way more involved with it than that. And you do need to do that in particular sometimes in order to really direct Copilot to give you the results that you're looking for. So hopefully that helps, Barry.
Yeah, thank you. And somebody asked in agent mode if we can pre-select referenced models.
If by that you mean the agent mode selector, no, at least not yet. What the example in the agent mode selector here, see right now it's set to auto, so it will make a determination based on what models are available. And then you can see when I select that, you've got GPT 5.2 and Opus 4.5. So I can force it to one or the other. Otherwise, it will make the decision for you. I expect that to be the behavior for agent mode as it rolls out as well. Typically, even everything seems to default to auto, so that Copilot can make the decision for which agent is the best one. Even if you go to the M365 app and look at it, that too is going to be set to auto, and then you can select whatever, deep think and faster or smarter or something like that. The consumer Copilot has the same type of choices.